At this year's New York Comic Con, we got a brand new sneak peek look at the upcoming second season of The Wheel of Time. Now, within this very brief 30 seconds or so, there were quite a few interesting shots, but there are a couple that really took my interest. Now, in this particular video, we're going to be discussing the one that really kind of piqued my interest, and that is the moment in which we saw Nyneave training using swords in the White Tower. And I have purposely left that clip right after Nyneave, which has Moiraine holding or clutching the dagger, because this all centers around mainly her story and how this affects Lan, and then in turn will affect Nyneave. And I believe the writers are using certain, story elements from the books and just kind of readapting it to fit the show moving forward, which I think is going to be quite interesting. Now, before I go any further into in-depth detail, I'm going to put a spoiler warning on the screen right now for anyone who's watching this video and hasn't read the majority of the series. We are going to be going in-depth across Moiraine's whole arc, as well as Nyneave's, so there will be spoilers among those particular characters and the other characters attached to them, which is quite obviously Lan. Now, when this clip came onto my screen when I was watching this, I was like, what is going on here? This is not anything that happened in the book series. I couldn't remember Nyneave having ever trained using the sword at any moment in it. And so I was just really kind of flabbergasted by what I was seeing. And so I thought to myself, let me take a minute, let me, move back from what I'm seeing, give it time to digest in my brain, and let me kind of wrap my head around it and see why they are doing this. And then, on the second or third rewatch of the sneak peek, it started to click with me as to why they were doing this. And it happens to be very kind of geniusly, edited together, was what is kind of happening right after Nynaeve's kind of shot of her practicing in the White Tower and what happens before. And it's really kind of ingenious how they did that, because we have the two main, characters that are the reasons behind why this scene is happening. You have Lan on the beginning, before Nyneave is having this kind of scene, and then we have Moiraine after it. Now, why are these really interesting ways in which to edit a video together? Well, it gives me personally a understanding of why this is happening and what's the reasons behind it. Now, let's cast our mind back already to the final episode of the first season, which, funnily enough, I have not watched since it came out. So I think I'm going to have to do a re-watch of the entire series or season and just kind of gather my thoughts about it overall, because it really left me on a bit of a bummer. Anyway, that's for another video. But the whole point of why I brought episode 8 up is for the fact, as we all know, Moiraine was shielded in that very last few moments or minutes in episode 8. And this is going to have a huge, profound effect on not only her, but also on her relationship with Lan. And now, of course, this isn't where it ends. This also is going to have a knock-on effect with Lan when it comes to his relationship, of course, with Moiraine, as I've just stated, but also his more important, or kind of becoming a more important relationship with Nyneave. And what I'm getting at here is everything he sees happening with Moiraine after she's shielded, and in particular, as we saw in the very brief moments after the Nyneave having a little, practice sparring match, Moiraine is, holding or clutching a dagger in a particular shot. Now, of course, she's having to now go around being an Aes Sedai who can no longer channel, and so she obviously is going to lose her authority, but more importantly, her confidence in herself. And she's now turned into pretty much the average woman in this world, where she can no longer fend for herself, using the one power, and she has to use the common folk everyday means of defense, which is, of course, swords, blades, daggers, bow and arrow, and whatever else, you may happen to have a bit of a skill in. So I think this is realization that's taking place throughout the second season, not only in the arc we're going to see with Lan and Moiraine, but this is going to have an effect on Lan's viewing of how Nyneave is, particularly with her block on the one power. And she has to, as we all know in the book series and in the show, she has to essentially become to the point of absolute, molten rock anger before she can channel any sort of, one power. And this is the whole point I was getting at when it comes to why Nyneave is training with the sword, because Landis, of course, sees how this has affected Moiraine, and then he, knowing how Nyneave is like, no, we cannot have her going around, and more importantly, I cannot let her go around going from place to place that is absolutely dangerous, and she cannot defend herself without the use of the one power. So he obviously is going to take it upon himself. This is what I believe to be the case anyway, where he's now going to send word to the White Tower and to the warders that he's, friends with or friendly with. You have to train this particular woman when she's in the White Tower and how to, look after herself in another, way, which is of course with the use of these swords. And that is essentially why this is happening. And it was just really, really intriguing to me on the initial watch, seeing this, clip and seeing this all play out. And I was thinking, why is this happening? And that's the reason why. And of course, another particular reason why things are being a bit kind of changed around is because they cannot have the actress, Rosamund Pike, the caliber of actress that she is, kind of vanish for 2 to 3 seasons, depending on how many seasons there's going to be, as she did in the books. Of course, we all know what happens there when it comes to Rand, Lanfear and herself, when they go through the doorway into the realm of the Alfin or the Ealfin, I cannot remember how you pronounce it, and she essentially is gone for so many seasons when you compare it to how it would look in the show. And of course that is the case through a large majority of the book series. She only comes back in, was it Towers of Midnight? I think Brandon Sanderson's first book that he did to help finish the story. And so they just couldn't have that. And so that's obviously why they chose to have Moiraine, shielded in the one power. They can keep Rosamund Pike in the show. They're going about kind of her disappearance in a different way. They're keeping her on screen, but she loses the use of the one power. And it's just a different plot device and a way of kind of having, in a sense, the same effect of having Moiraine not there, but still being there, if that kind of makes sense. And I think that's where the writers were at. And I think that is the sole and intensive purpose behind why we're seeing Nyneave practicing the sword in the White Tower. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with my interpretation of why this is happening? I'll be really intrigued to see if any of you guys have any differing ideas. Let me know in the comments down below if you do. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I will be back later, I would say Sunday, Monday. I will have my kind of just complete in-depth breakdown, or just a breakdown of the teaser trailer or the sneak peek as a whole. Alright guys, I will catch you all later in the week. Well, it's the end of the week. I will catch you all in the next video. Alright, bye.